Everyone, greetings of the day. After a long resume, I'm going to start a new series called as Spring Boot. In this series, we'll cover about Spring and Spring Boot and some of the other concepts. So let us go to the video without wasting our time. In this video, particularly, I'm going to discuss about the introduction about Spring Boot, advantages and disadvantages of Spring as well as Spring Boot, why we use only Spring Boot, and why we use Spring, and I am also going to discuss about the softwares and required things which are needed to download your Spring Boot also. Yes, let us start our session. Spring. So what is Spring? Spring is a lightweight and open source Java framework. Java framework which was developed by Rod Johnson in year 2003. Perfect. So Spring is called as an open source Java framework as mentioned here, and it was developed by Rod Johnson in 2003. Yes. So Spring is a loosely coupled architecture. Loosely coupled architecture. So basically we have two types of architecture. One is called as tightly coupled and loosely coupled. After the definition after the definition of Spring, I'll be discussing about what is these two types of architectures. And Spring is called as framework of framework, because one is dependent to each other. So which means we can integrate we can integrate with ORM, which is called as object relational mapping. So object relational mapping is nothing but where Java objects are being directly linked with DBMS, like relational databases, which you called as. So this is called as object relational mapping. In Java, we create objects, and those objects will be automatically linked with the databases, that is relational databases. So in short form, we call it as object oriented programming, that is OOP to RDBMS. Perfect. And another one is you can integrate with ORM as well as JDBC. This is called as Java database database connectivity. So Java database connectivity is nothing but your Java whenever you're creating a program, you use some database properties. With that, you can connect with your databases such as MySQL. Most of the people use these two databases, PostgreSQL. Yes, and there are another databases also, but most of the people they use MySQL and PostgreSQL. Perfect. So Spring is called as framework of framework because one framework can be integrated with many of them. ORM, which is called as object relational mapping, where Java objects are directly interlinked with your databases, which is your RDBMS. RDBS is nothing but relational databases. Perfect. And next point, we have said that it has also integration with JDBC. JDBC is nothing but Java database connectivity. So here Java database connectivity. So JDBC is nothing but it's an API. So API is nothing but as an application programming interface. So what happens is it allows all the Java applications to interact directly with the database, like using SQL query. SQL, we all know that SQL stands for SQL stands for structured query language. Structured query language. Using some queries, they perform easy CRUD operations. So basically we import one of the package. So for steps for connectivity is nothing but we import some packages, we load the database driver. Basically a type 4 thin driver will be used. So basically, So we'll be discussing about the concept, separate video, the JDBC and database connection, how we connect a database with an Spring Boot and all. So basic knowledge of JDBC is now important. So I have clearly mentioned the Java database connectivity, which nothing but it is an API that allows Java applications to interact directly with databases. That's it. And coming to the next one, and as I have said, we have two types of architecture. We have, sorry, before that, one more point. Spring is called as framework of frame, that is one can be integrated with other, I said before only. But we have also one more framework, which is web. So web can be used whenever you are running a Java program inside Java application inside your Spring Boot, automatically you can view the work in the web. So and structured output can be viewed in your web, in your browser. Perfect. Now we'll come to the architecture. There are two types of architecture architectures. First one is first one is tightly coupled architecture. And second one is loosely coupled architecture. So the difference between these two, we'll discuss it now. So we have two types of architecture. One is called as tightly coupled architecture, and another one is called as loosely coupled architecture. So we'll see tightly coupled. What is meant by tightly coupled? So we'll discuss this one. So tightly coupled is nothing but let us assume that there is one of the application ERP. ERP is nothing but it is an enterprise resource, enterprise resource planning. So ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, where many of them, some of the universities, colleges use this application to store their records, like student, faculty, so everything. It is a centralized application for university and students and everyone. So let us consider a scenario where we have, let us assume ERP is not developed by only one, like admin. So there'll be different modules, like one can be admin and another can be as a faculty, and another one is students. Yeah, let us assume admin module contains admin is a person who has an who has permission to, like what to say, yeah, admin is a person who has a permission to store the whole data, store the, like, not store, manage the data, manage the data. And faculty can post their marks as well as attendance. Like this they can do any like many things as an application. So students, coming to students, they can view their marks, attendance, as well as timetable, right? So coming to this, here is one of the centralized application, like ERP management, ERP resource. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So this management, we have different modules: admin, faculty, and students. So for example, let me assume that admin module is going to introduce a new service called as payment. So whenever you are doing any application, whenever a payment module is integrated or some other modules are integrated, so make sure that you don't affect the any modules. So admin module should only have a change when you are developing a code. Understood, I think? Yeah. Payment module, whenever you're integrating, only that module should change. It should not affect the other modules. That is the perfect example of tightly coupled architecture. If a if a developer if a developer want to change the code in one component, that is he want to change the code in one component, and that code is affecting the other component, then that is called as then that is called as tightly coupled architecture. Eventually, when one person is doing with one module, that module should not hurdle with the, like that module should not integrate with the other module. If you are doing a payment service in that module, that module only should work. It should not interrupt with the other modules. So this is what the tightly coupled architecture says. Like each component is dependent to each other. Like each component is dependent on each other. I think you have understood about tightly coupled architecture, which is a best live example. And now we'll discuss about loosely coupled architecture. Coming to loosely coupled architecture, it is vice versa. So in the tightly coupled architecture, when changed in code one component, if that code is affecting other, then that is called as tightly coupled. Coming to loosely coupled, if we modify the code also, if we modify, if we modify the code of one component, then that then then it will not affect the other component. Such applications, wait 1 minute. If you modify the code, yeah, other component in an application, in an application then that is called as loosely coupled architecture. Perfect. So whenever you are doing any web applications, or you are doing any websites and all, you need to follow this loosely coupled architecture only. I think we have discussed as of now about Spring, architecture types, which is archetypes. This is also called as archetypes. So tightly coupled architecture and loosely coupled architecture. For tightly coupled architecture, we have seen a best example, live example, which is ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, where admin will manage the whole data, faculty will post their marks, view their attendance, students will view their marks, attendance, and timetable. As of now, it is clear. Yeah, when a admin is doing any payment service or payment gateway, anything he's implementing, if that code is going, if that component is going to affect the other one, then surely it is called as tightly coupled architecture, and vice versa is loosely coupled. If you modify one component, and if it does not affect the other component in an application, then we call it as loosely coupled architecture. Now let us see about Spring Boot. Now we have seen about Spring, and we'll see the Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is Spring Boot is Spring Boot is extension of Spring Framework. Spring Framework. Because it simplifies Spring Framework, because it simplifies the development it simplifies the development of Spring based applications by providing one is auto configuration and another one is starter dependencies, and the final one is embedded servers. Embedded servers. Yes. Now we'll discuss about what is auto configuration. So auto configuration is nothing but whenever you are creating an application in Spring Boot, it automatically configures the beans. Beans are nothing but objects. Here beans are nothing but not the food items. Beans are nothing but an object in Java. Usually Java is called as you know that Java will have objects as well as classes and all. So coming to Spring Boot context, we have object called as beans. So what happens is automatically configures beans based on project dependencies, and many dependencies we have, like spring data jpa spring data jpa So Spring Data JPA is nothing but we use this dependency for automatically we write queries, SQL queries. Before the Spring Data JPA, what we do is we write whole query, like it will be length, like select start from students where student ID equals to 2 and student department equals to CSE. So it will be very complex. So in order to bridge that gap between that complex URLs and all, so Spring Data JPA will be used. JPA is nothing but Java persistence Java Persistence API. API is Application Programming Interface. So Spring Data JPA, we have many things. So what happens is it bridges the complex SQL queries into simpler ones and make the query easier. So automatic query will be happening between a database and your Java application. Perfect. So starter dependencies are nothing but one of the what we say, like the beauty of Spring Boot is if you forgot to add dependency even at the creation of application also, no need to worry. We can, according to our application development, we can add this later also. So there is no issues. Like we have many dependencies like Spring Web, Spring Security, where you can perform JWT authentication and according to security purposes, Spring is the big most lovable one. Perfect. So starter dependency is nothing but in Spring Boot, whenever you are creating an application, it asks us to add some of the dependencies like Spring Data JPA, MySQL driver. MySQL driver is nothing but your connection between your database and your Spring Boot. So yeah, that is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot. In Spring you what we will do is in Spring, from other website or the Spring official website, you will take the dependencies and then you will add it into your pom.xml. But the beauty of Spring Boot, it is enabled with starter dependencies. Means if you forgot to add the dependency while application development, no need to worry. After your application is completely developed or in the middle of the development, if for example, let me assume that I have added Spring Data JPA for to make my complex queries into easy one. So later on I have think that I need to add security for my system or my application, stating that I need to have some I need to have some security while user is going to log in. That is, if your user is going to log in, you need to generate a token where hackers can't do this. By using some of the algorithms, they will do this. But Spring Security is one of the other dependencies. I as we taken a scenario where I'm developing an application, the Spring Security will be used and later can be added. So that's the beauty of Spring Boot. Starter dependencies. Next, embedded servers. So usually Spring doesn't have their embedded servers, but coming to Spring Boot, embedded servers are provided like Tomcat, Tomcat, Jetty, Jetty, Glassfish, etc. So we have many embedded servers. For example, I have developed an application, and while I'm running the application, so usually a Spring Boot will start running. But I don't eventually want to stop and start the server. When I go to boot dashboard and whenever I run my application, automatically server get restarted, and whatever the server we are running, that gets restarted automatically. That's the beauty of Spring Boot. It comes with auto configuration, starter dependencies, embedded servers. Perfect. Now we'll see the advantages over Spring and Spring Boot. Advantages of Spring and Spring Boot. So in Spring, first one, in Spring, so we'll write first Spring and then Spring Boot. So first one is configuration. Coming to Spring, uh, configuration is manual. Manually, you need to add all the dependencies, and there are complex also. Some of the dependencies your system may not support those dependencies, or anything might be of any error. But configuration is manual and complex in Spring. Whereas coming to Spring Boot, as we have discussed, it has auto configuration. This has auto configuration. Auto configuration. Perfect. First one is we have clear with the configuration time and setup. Setup is nothing but your project setup. Your project setup where whereas you are setting up your Spring project will take more time consuming, time consuming. And coming to Spring Boot, it is quick and easy. It is quick and easy. Quick and easy in sense if you even forgot dependency as starter dependency. If you forgot to if you forgot any dependency to be added, no need to worry, we can add it later because it's quick and easy. Perfect. Now coming to third one, dependency management. Dependency management. So coming to dependency management, it is manual. So you need to add dependencies manually. And here starter dependencies. Starter dependencies. We have discussed this point earlier. Perfect. Next one, server. This is one of the important point. Server is nothing but your application needs to be started and run in a local host, and then when you deploy it, it becomes global. Perfect. So whenever you start a server, application will be running in your console with maintaining a log of what happened and what you are doing. So external server is required in Spring Boot. External server required. And coming to Spring Boot, we have embedded server like Tomcat as discussed here. Tomcat, Jetty, Glassfish, and Neglifix. So these all are embedded servers which we use. And coming to deployment, Spring is done in var nothing but web archive. var is nothing but web So var is nothing but web archive or web application archive, where we have only web applications to be created. And another one is we have standalone var. Standalone var is nothing but you can create web as well as your Java applications also. Standalone var. So another word is not var, you can say as var. Var is nothing but web archive. Standalone is nothing but your jar also. Jar is nothing but Java archive. Java archive. Java archive. Where you can create all the web applications as well as your console applications also. Coming to the next advantages as advantages of Spring and Spring Boot. No need of other advantages. Let us conclude with this. Yeah, we have seen about advantages and advantages of Spring and Spring Boot. Now let us see the advanced features of let us see the features of Spring Boot. So what features does the Spring Boot provide? Features of Spring Boot. So we all know that first one is auto configuration. Second one is starter dependencies. Starter dependencies. Starter dependencies. And third one is your embedded server. Embedded server. And fourth one is actuator. Actuator is nothing but coming to your IoT concept. Actuator is nothing but coming to your IoT concept. It is a production ready feature to monitor the application. So it monitors application like anything. Monitors the application. Monitors the application. So it is an actuator. It monitors the application. Next one is health check. Health check. Health check. Health check is nothing but whenever your application is running or not, it checks whether your server is up or down. For example, let me assume that my application is running perfect with port number and everything. It is showing the output browser clearly. So then my server shows up. Up is nothing but rising arrow. Rising arrow. I cannot put this rising arrow here, but still, yeah, up is nothing but your rising arrow. Whereas whenever you encounter an error in your application, like server is not responding, not correctly responding, like you have some dependency you need to add or you need to forgot adding and everything, your console itself shows and logs itself shows that your server is not working. So like in that way, up and down is used. Up and down concept is used. And next one, no XML configuration. So basically in Spring we use XML configuration. XML configuration. XML configuration. So XML stands for extensible markup language, where you need to add dependencies like slash dependency and everything. But here you can add with pom.xml. Pom.xml is nothing but pom.xml. So I'll continue with the normal naming convention because it will be easy for your future purposes also. Pom is nothing but pom is nothing but so pom is nothing but project object model, where it is a file where it contains all configuration of that particular application, configurations, dependencies, plugins, etc. Perfect. So this pom.xml is a centralized management file where you contains all the configuration files and all. So no XML configuration because we use annotations and Java based configurations. Annotations are nothing but in your Spring Boot we use annotation. For example, let me take an example annotation of at the rate request mapping. We'll discuss everything. So at the rate request mapping, here at the rate is preceded by at the rate symbol. So whenever an at the rate symbol is being used, then it is called as your annotation. Preceded by at the rate. Perfect. So no XML configuration. XML you cannot use any other XML. So you can use pom.xml. You this is a centralized configuration file. It has dependencies, plugins. I have given a small what is annotation and what is the meaning of this annotation. Annotation is nothing but to be more precise, annotation is nothing but it is a metadata which is written directly in the source code. So it is preceded by a thread to provide configuration or additional information during compile time or runtime. So uh, it is uh, it is it is a metadata written written directly in the source code directly in the source code to provide information, to provide configuration configuration or additional information at compile time or runtime. Perfect introduction about features and everything. So at this time I'll not waste my time. I'll go with the what are the what are softwares required for this setup. Softwares required. Softwares required. So basically we need softwares for this Spring and Spring Boot. So for this go to the Google and type as Eclipse IDE. Eclipse IDE for enterprise Java and web developers. So Eclipse IDE, normally we have many platforms we have different types of things. So for that you need to develop IDE for web Java and web developers. I'll be giving this link here, Eclipse IDE. So this link I'll be posting down in the section below, whereas in the description. So first one is your Eclipse IDE. Next one is basically many of them what they do is we can use the Spring Boot like anything. So Spring Tool Suite, one is called as Spring Tool Suite. Spring Tool Suite is one of the application STS where you can download this and you can use the Spring Boot. So like it is one more application, Spring Tool Suite. For this you need to like you need to change the environment variables and everything, but it's quite big process. Spring Tool Suite, make sure you install the latest version I'll be giving it in the description. So one way I have told you that you can install Spring Tool Suite, and another one is you can directly integrate your Spring Tool Suite, your Spring Boot directly in the Eclipse IDE. And I'll be showing you at another video coming series. It will be going to be really interesting. So I request everyone to watch the video till the end without wasting your time, because Spring and Spring Boot everything is one of the industry level, industry oriented programming language, as well as a good paying jobs also. Perfect. So we have seen about Spring Tool Suite, and another one is Eclipse IDE. Also, you can use your Spring Boot. And next one is you need Java. You need your Java version. Java download. Java download. Basically, Oracle will be coming. Oracle Java download. Download your Java latest. JDK 21 is perfectly preferred. So basically you have three platforms. One is Linux, Mac OS and Windows. I think many of your people will use Mac OS and Windows. Perfect. For your Mac OS, go to JDK 21. Their latest release also perfectly fine, no issues with that. Go with the X64-bit installer, and there is a link here. I'll be copying the link and I'll be sharing this. JDK stands for Java Development Kit. Perfect. I will be providing these links below. And next one, after downloading Java, go to command prompt. What you do is you check whether your Java version is present or not. Java space hyphen hyphen version. Whenever I click on enter, it should show some of the versions. Perfect. Java 24.01. So 24 version of one. I have some version Java 24, and runtime environment is there. No need to worry if you don't get anything when you type this command. Nothing to do. Go and download the Java version. Any version is okay, but JDK 21 is preferred. Okay, perfect. So in this video we have seen about the introduction to Spring. We have seen about the types of architecture, tightly coupled and loosely coupled. We have seen about the introduction to Spring and advantages of Spring and Spring Boot. We have seen about configuration, servers and deployment, everything and all. We have seen the features of Spring Boot, like health up and down, and we have seen about annotations, and we have seen about softwares required. In the next video we will see about the different like in the next video we will see how we'll do the programs and all. Thank you for watching with this video. Subscribe.